And welcome to everyone. Thank you so much for carving out time on this fine Friday. Not sure if you've got sunshine. I happen to have sunshine here, and that sunshine here actually in what I like to call sunny Tawasin. And I'll then start with just acknowledging that with sincere gratitude that I am coming to you today from my home office on the treaty territory of the Tawasin First Nation, where I have the pleasure to work and explore. And I encourage you to put in the chat where you may be coming from today. We would love to hear from you. And today's learning lab will be led by one of our network coaches, Naomi Cha. And some of you may have met Naomi, perhaps at the coach gathering that we had in April. And just as a little bit of background on Naomi, Naomi has worked in a variety of areas in the BC Public Service and currently works as a manager of research and evaluation here at the BC Public Service Agency. She completed her coach training through 8-element coaching in February of 2023, and she's currently working toward her ACC credential. Naomi is also pursuing an adult education diploma through Vancouver Community College, and this session today represents part of her Capstone project. We'll just ask for you to note that this session, of course, is recorded. You may have noticed that, and it will be stored, of course, on the Teams channel and the Learning Labs area of the Teams channel. And just to let you know, too, that Naomi will be sharing this recording with her college instructor for assessment. So I'll just ask Naomi to get us started so that we can learn more about time to think.
Thank you so much, Terry, for the lovely introductions. Terry is my coach advisor, if you don't know. So appreciate for all the help and guidance you've helped me to put this together. So yes, I'm going to present to you time to think together today. Who has heard of time to think? If you have, please raise your virtual hands or type it in the chat. John has? No? Okay. All right. So I guess not many. Adonica has. Amazing. Thanks. And for those who have heard of time to think, what do you know about a thinking environment?
I don't know a whole lot about it, Naomi, but what comes up for me is the thinking environment is one where we're giving, as coaches, we're giving the opportunity for our coachees, the client, to have some time and space to just really run through all the things that are important to them.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Terry. And lovely Adonica. Even though you have not read it, I'm going to summarize today's book for you in 90 minutes. And then maybe you can decide if you want to buy this book. All right. So we're going to get going. So it is my pleasure to bring to you is from Nancy Client, the author of Time to Think and More Time to Think. Nancy Client is a renowned author, consultant, executive coach, known for her pioneering work in developing the thinking environment. She's the president and founder of Time to Think, which is an international coaching and leadership development company that helps organizations develop effective thinking. And she teaches coaches and leaders to become experts in creating thinking environments with their clients and their teams. The book introduced the thinking environment framework to the world. It explained what does it take for people to think for themselves independently, with rigor, imagination, courage, and grace. And Time to Think identified the 10 behaviors that generates the finest independent thinking. It's called the 10 components of a thinking environment, which we'll touch on this presentation today. And she outlined the thinking process called the thinking session in the book. It is also based on the thinking environment. So both the thinking environment and thinking sessions, they are registered trademarks and are highly regarded by many as essential coaching expertise. So you are in for a treat. So here's a personal story how I stumbled across this book. One of my coach mentor in my coach training program, she used this technique to help me break through my limiting belief. And as a recipient, it had a huge impact in my resilience. At the time, I was at a low point of my career, and I labeled myself as a loser. As I continued to apply for jobs, getting interviewed, and not getting a permanent job offer. And she asked me, what is the positive opposite term for loser? And I said, winner. But I don't feel like a winner. And she asked me to share examples of when I felt like a winner in life. So I said some stuff, I shared some stuff, and I recall, and it resets my mindset to be slightly more positive. And then that's when she cut through with, if you knew that you are a winner, what would you do with this goal? And it entirely changed my perspective on myself. Instead of seeing the glass as half empty, I see the glass as half full. I stopped labeling myself as a loser, and I started to better acknowledge myself, where I'm being successful, where I'm progressing. And I started to believe more in myself that I am a winner, even though I haven't got my dream job yet. And that was one of the most memorable and impactful coaching sessions where I found the power and resilience in me to keep on going. And it freed me from I'm a loser label. So I decided to pick up this book. And now I know that I am winning as long as I am being persistent at chasing after my goal, my dreams, because many people would have given up. So a little bit personal story around there. And this is our agenda today. First, we'll talk about the learning outcomes, then the thinking environment, the thinking sessions at a glance, and then talk about the 3 types of limiting assumptions. We'll have a break, and then we'll talk about thinking sessions, coaching demo. We'll do a coaching demo together, and we'll practice coaching using the thinking sessions techniques. We'll have a group debrief and share some learning reflections and end with some feedback from you. So for our learning outcomes today, at the end of today's learning lab, you will be able to apply components of thinking environment in coaching. You'll be able to check clients' limiting assumption in coaching and design an incisive question to deconstruct the limiting assumption in coaching. So I chose this book to share with you because I've used this in facilitating meetings, coaching sessions, and it has been very effective and improved the quality of thinking. I used the technique to examine limiting beliefs and assumptions and free clients from those thinking and gain positive and impactful results. I've used the concepts of thinking environment in meetings, and it resulted in less interruptions, more active listening, and people felt more heard and understood, and we generated better ideas. So essentially, thinking environment principles help to hone our skills in deep listening, creating a safe space for open dialogue, using incisive questions to break through limiting assumptions, encouraging equal participation, and cultivating empathy and attentiveness. By adopting the concept and approaches from time to think, it can help us be more effective in coaching, teaching, leadership, conflict resolutions, and brainstorming. And today, our focus will be how you could apply it in a coaching context. So the origins of the thinking environment stem from one observation and one question. The observation is the quality of everything we do depends on the quality of the thinking we do first. And this leads us to the next question, which is, what does it take for people to think well for themselves? Well, it leads us to Nancy Klein's next quote, which is, the quality of our thinking depends on the way we treat each other while we are thinking. Nancy Klein articulated the 10 behaviors that generates the finest thinking in her book that is known as the 10 components of a thinking environment, which we will talk about next. And as I present these 10 components, think about the top 3 components that you apply the most in your coaching practice and 1 or 2 components you like to focus on improving. You can see a list of them in page 1 of the handout, which Terry have shared previously. Okay.
I can share it again too, if case you would, someone arrived late or later. I'll share it right now.
Thanks, Terry. So the first component of thinking environment is attention. How did you feel when a passionate coworker constantly interrupted and took over a discussion? And how did you feel when a coworker attentively listened and gave space to talk through your thinking? Attention is very powerful. It is an act of creation. It generates thinking. In a thinking environment, attention means listening with respect and genuine interest without interrupting. It's about being fully present and curious about what the person thought will lead to next. This kind of listening shows that we value their ideas, and by promising not to interrupt and truly respecting their thoughts, we help generate new ideas and insights. The second component is equality. In a thinking environment, we treat each other as thinking peers. Everyone gets an equal turn to think out loud and give each other attention. How nice is it? Even in a hierarchy, people can be equal as thinker. And knowing that you'll get your turn to speak, it helps everyone just sit back, relax, and pay attention. Valuing everyone's thoughts equally ensures that quieter voices are heard and prevents dominant voices from overshadowing them. And this balance results in higher quality discussions and decisions by considering all perspectives. The third component is ease. In a thinking environment, it means removing internal rush and pressure. It involves creating a calm, stress-free space without urgency. As Nancy Klein says, ease creates and urgency destroys. When we cultivate ease, we create optimal conditions for thinking clearly and creatively. And in today's fast-paced world, especially in public service, we often face constant pressure to think faster and better. And to think well under pressure, we must intentionally promote a sense of ease. The fourth component is appreciation. In a thinking environment, it means noticing what is good and saying it. Genuinely acknowledging a person's qualities help them feel valued and understood. And the human mind works best when it feels appreciated. Nancy Klein suggests practicing a 5-to-1 ratio of appreciation to challenge. We often equate being critical as being realistic and focus on what's not working. But our brains need appreciations to perform optimally. And by maintaining the right balance between appreciations and challenge, we enable others to think at their best. The fifth element is encouragement. In a thinking environment, encouragement fosters courageous and innovative thinking by eliminating competition. Competition hinders true excellence. It just ensures that someone is better than the rest. And when thinkers compete, their focus shifts from their own potential to viewing each other as rivals, which is dangerous and limiting. Instead, encouragement replaces rivalry with potential. A wholehearted unthreatened search for good ideas. And this shift allows us to focus on our own potential and encourages a collaborative, supportive atmosphere where everyone can think courageously and creatively. The sixth component is feelings. In a thinking environment, it's important to welcome the release of emotions. Unexpressed feelings can block good thinking, and society often teaches us that feelings interrupt thinking, but the opposite is true. When someone is upset, their thinking stops. Expressing feelings, even just a little, can restore clear thinking. By relaxing and welcoming signs of feelings, we can help people regain their ability to think clearly and effectively. I want to share a very impactful story in Nancy Klein's book that I couldn't forget. She shared that in a company, a coworker who worked very hard and often overtime dropped dead in the middle of a company presentation. In the afternoon, there was a company meeting. The meeting chair sends a lot of emotions in the room. Instead of sticking with his agenda, he made room for people to talk about their feelings for a few rounds. People cried, mourned, regretted, and reflected. And after clearing the emotions, people were able to focus. And the chair went through his agenda within allotted time and had a very productive discussion. How powerful is it by just releasing emotions? The seventh component is information. In a thinking environment, information means making decisions based on all relevant facts. Incorrect or incomplete information will trap us in denial and affect the quality of our thinking. Gathering and absorbing full and accurate information helps us move past our false assumptions, stay honest and clear-headed, and make well-informed decisions. Having the right facts improves the quality of our thinking and decision-making. The eighth component is difference. In a thinking environment, difference means welcoming diverse group identities and diversity of thinking. And this helps us free us from false assumptions that drive prejudice. Prejudice is based on false beliefs about identity groups, and it hinders clear thinking. By letting go of these assumptions, we can improve everyone's thinking, embraces diverse identities and perspectives, enriches discussions, and lead to better ideas and solutions. The ninth component of thinking environment is incisive questions. High quality independent thinking requires freeing the mind from false limiting assumptions. In a thinking environment, asking an incisive questions can remove assumptions. And the Merriam-Webster dictionary defines incisive as impressively direct and decisive. It means cut to the heart where it matters. Limiting assumptions block thinking, and incisive questions free the mind from those assumptions. Beneath these false assumptions, I'm not as smart as my manager, others may laugh at my idea, lies a wellspring of good ideas. Removing these limiting beliefs unlock good ideas and enhance clear thinking. And this is why learning to construct an incisive question is so powerful, which will be our focus in our coaching practice today. In a thinking environment, place means producing a physical environment that tells people you matter through the room, the listener, and body language. A physical environment that affirms the other person is a silent form of appreciation. People think best when they know they matter and are valued, and when our surroundings affirm our importance and show care and respect, we think more clearly and courageously. In summary, thanks for staying with me. These are the 10 components of a thinking environment. And all these components actually aligned very well with many of the International Coaching Federation competencies, such as creating a trusting, safe, supportive environment that allows clients to share freely. For example, attention, place, encouragement, maintaining presence with client, and active listening to what the client is and not saying. For example, ease, place, and attention. Evoking clients' awareness, insight, and learning by using techniques like powerful questioning. For example, exploring feelings, using incisive questions to deconstruct limiting assumptions, and facilitating client growth by transforming learning and insights into actions. For example, exploring all the information and using incisive questions. So now that I've summarized the 10 components, we'll switch to the Mentimeter platform. And I'd like you to vote on the top 3 components you apply most in your coaching practice. And then the second vote will be what are the 1 or 2 components you'd like to focus on today's coaching practice. I'm going to stop sharing for now and drop the Mentimeter link. Okay, Terry, do you have the Mentimeter link handy too? Okay, I just need to like copy and paste. Okay, here is the Mentimeter link and the code is 3775853. So I'll share my screen now to show the results. Are people able to get in okay?
I can get in, and I'm just thinking about my answers.
Yeah. Okay. We're just going to wait for a bit. Have everyone had a chance to vote? Oh, okay. Sorry, Marcia. I chose multiple choice, but I'm not sure what's wrong with the Mentimeter platform. Okay, that's okay.
No worries. Well, just put one there.
Yeah,
I guess
okay.
it was just me, apparently.
No, I tried. Oh, some people were able to vote for 3.
Yeah, interesting.
And I just answered the wrong question.
It's okay.
By the time I finally got in here, so my colleagues know I'm not a very big fan of using Menti. It's too many windows to have to manage.
Yeah. I tried to incorporate it in my presentation, but once it becomes presentation mode, it just doesn't show. Okay, it looks like we have top votes for appreciations and incisive questions. Wonderful. We will touch on incisive questions today. Looks like incisive question is leading. Very nice. And I just want to go back and look at the one that you use the most. Okay, yes, attention. Attention is one of the most important and foundational components in coaching. So wonderful. Thank you, everyone. In interest of time, I'm going to keep going on and share my presentation again. Yes. All right. Now that you all have a foundation of what forms a thinking environment, we're going to talk about a thinking sessions. Part 1, saying everything, and Part 2, recognizing what you want to achieve, is about setting the agreement. Today, our coaching practice will focus on Part 3, finding the limiting assumptions, and Part 4, asking the incisive questions by asking the positive opposite of the assumptions and design an incisive questions. Part 5 is writing down the incisive questions as a reminder. And then Part 6, appreciations, which is not new to you. You probably use this regularly to recognize your coworkers and your team members. Okay, it's not our focus today. But all through the thinking sessions, you listen actively and maintain presence. So to ask the incisive questions, we do need to be good at detecting and finding that limiting assumptions that hold your client back. So I want you to spend about 1 or 2 minutes to think of a situations that you are in. It could be a life, career, relationship, health goal, and that certain beliefs that may be holding you back or preventing you from moving forward or to overcome the barrier. I'm going to invite you to share on the Mentimeter, which is anonymous, and you're welcome to be as vulnerable and authentic as possible. Sharing Mentimeter again. Okay, so what limiting assumptions have you been holding on to? Okay, I just can't get started. I need to be perfect. We are not God. We can't be perfect. I can't be consistent. I'm not capable of doing. I have that in my thoughts all the time. I'm not good enough. Yes, that might be a bedrock assumption that I'll get it wrong. Possible fact, I don't have enough time. Possible fact, the timing isn't right. I'm not enough of an expert to have an opinion. Is it fact or possible fact? I'm not good at this and I will make it worse. All right, thank you so much for being so vulnerable and authentic. We all have this limiting beliefs that holds us back. Yes, not yet waiting for what I don't know. I'll mess it up. Hey, I might have messed up my presentation today. I had to say no to that thought. All right, so I'm going to get us back to the presentations. So thank you everyone for sharing all your vulnerable beliefs. So in the thinking environment, we distinguish 3 types of limiting assumptions, which is fact, possible fact, and bedrock assumptions. Fact is obvious, objective. It is not a subjective perception. For example, I'm not the boss, he is. I failed in my driving test. Possible fact. It's fairly obvious, it's not subjective, it's usually about events or circumstances or about what others might say or do. It's not definite that they will, but they might. One of it was, I might mess it up. Or they might think that I'm stupid. They might laugh at me. Oh, it might fail. It might be difficult. For bedrock assumptions, the third assumption, it is subjective. It has been made up in our mind without our conscious, without our consent. It's programming us as we grew up about how life works and about self-perceptions. Some examples are, I am stupid. I'm a loser. I'm not good enough. My ideas do not matter. Some of the assumptions, bedrock assumptions on how life works include, oh, people in power think best. Talking about feelings means you are weak or get wrong. It's not okay to get it wrong. So we are at time for a break for 5 minutes. So it's 11:06 now. Please take the time for you to stretch your leg, get coffee, tea, and go to the washroom. And let's be back at 11:11. And then we'll talk more about thinking session in detail and do a coaching demo and dive into practicing. Thank you, everyone. All right, it looks like it's 11:11. So wait for a few minutes for everyone to turn back on their video. Hi, Nicole. Okay, so I have a jam-packed agenda, so we're going to get started. So we have covered part 1, and now we are going to talk about part 2 in Time to Think, where we will talk in detail what the thinking session is, the coaching demo, and then we will jump into a coaching practice using the new tools that we learned, and then we'll do a group debrief, have some reflections and feedback to close it. So before we dive into the demo and practice, let's talk about a thinking session in detail. Look at page 3 of your handout. There's also a summary of the thinking sessions with everything. So part 1 is about saying everything. You start with asking, what do you want to think? What do you want to talk or to be coached? You let your client say it all. And you ask them what they want to achieve in the thinking session. It is like the G, goal of the Grow coaching model. Part 3 is where we check the assumptions by asking, what are you assuming that is stopping you from achieving the goal? Maybe you might want to dig deeper and ask, that's possible, but what are you assuming that stops you? Then you find out the positive opposite by asking, what is your positive of that assumption? Just like what my coach mentor did. And don't assume and use your own version of the positive opposite, because it will be more impactful if you use the client's own wording of the positive opposite. It will work better. Then you ask the incisive questions. The question is incisive because it cuts clean into the assumptions. Incisive question is precise and carefully formed. It exactly reflects the thinker's issue, goal, assumptions, and wording. And there's a formula to it. Start with, if you knew, add the freeing assumptions that you are a winner, and then attach the goal. What would you continue to do with your goal? So it is placed timely to replace that limiting assumptions with a new freeing assumptions. And it's a truth based on positive philosophical choice. The next part is writing it down as a physical reminder, writing down the incisive questions. And you close it with appreciation. What quality do you respect in each other? Both part 5 and 6 are not the focus of our coaching demo and practice today due to the limited time, but please feel free to incorporate in your coaching. So we are going to move on to coaching demo. Thank you so much for John for volunteering. And please just keep what John shared confidential and not share beyond this group to make it safe for John. And it's okay to talk about the time to think techniques I've used. And during the demo, I'd like you to observe the 10 components of the thinking environment. It's at page 1 of your handout, the limiting assumptions, page 2 of a handout, and how I deconstruct the limiting assumptions. All right. And then we will come back for a group debrief. I'm ready, Terry. I'll stop sharing. And John, are you ready?
I am, thank you.
All right. So, hi, John.
Hello.
How are you doing?
I'm doing well, thank you.
Good. So, what are we talking about today?
Yeah, so I have a challenge at work that I'm not quite sure what to do with. In my role as the assistant director at King's Printer, I am responsible for publishing all of the legislation, acts, regulations, statutes on behalf of government. All official government documentations flow through my office. My team approached me recently because a ministry tried to publish what's called a QR code in the King's Gazette. And this has no precedence. The King's Gazette is responsible for publicly publishing all sort of official government notices. And so I have been asked in my capacity to provide either direction or policy on how to handle this request, both in this specific example and moving forward. So that is the issue that I am trying to deal with.
Mm. So this is not like this is a precedent, and you have been asked to print this. What are the challenges around it?
Yeah, there is a tension between, in essence, two partners or two stakeholders.
Okay.
So I think many on the team that publish this resource have concerns about security. So, for example, if we publish something officially in the Gazette, that is when laws and regulations become legally enforceable. And until it's published, there's no enforceability. And there are security concerns that if we publish a QR code, those QR codes are they can be manipulated, they can be changed, they're not permanent. And we are supposed to be the permanent record of government, regulations and laws. On the other side, we have pressure from ministries who are saying this is a more convenient and effective way to link to detailed information that is more effective than publishing all the details in the Gazette, which has space limitations. And so these are both good and legitimate concerns that are coming into conflict with each other. And I'm feeling the pressure from both sides to figure out a solution.
I see. And what would you like to achieve in this very short coaching session today?
In an ideal world, if I could wave our magic wand, I would like a clear policy that leaves everybody feeling happy and satisfied and maintains public trust. But whether we can achieve that in the time we have, I don't know. But that ultimately is my goal.
Okay. So some next step, possibly, that would still help you to maintain public trust?
I think part of what is slowing me down or limiting my ability to move forward is I'm not confident that I understand all of the security risks at a technical level around publishing QR codes. The publishing team seems quite adamant about it, but I've yet to sort of hear or understand the sort of a detailed What's the risk? How could this actually go sideways?
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't mean it can't. It just means I don't understand it yet.
Right.
And I think partly I would like to understand that better, to weigh that risk versus the benefit of meeting the requests of ministries.
Mhm. And in these situations, what are some limiting assumptions that may be holding you back to investigate the security risk?
Mhm. I mean, I think the shortest answer to that question is time. In the sense that I just came back from 3 weeks of holiday, and this landed on my desk. And so unfortunately, all these people are waiting for a decision and for clarity. And it, the response has already been delayed. But I think, a slightly longer response to that question, if time is one of the limiting factors, I think related to that is that pressure to provide a response and to do it quickly, I'm weighing that against my internal discomfort of disappointing people by slowing down and being cautious. And I might need to just live with the discomfort of that, because the stakes are quite high. Because if I get this quote unquote wrong and I establish a precedent or a policy, because I'm under pressure to make a decision quickly, the implications could be really big and bad in terms of eroding public trust. And the pressure to have a response quickly is completely internal to government employees who just want clarity. There's actually no imminent threat to public safety. Yeah, so the pressure, the limiting pressure of time is kind of all in my own head. I mean, yes, it's external to me in the sense that the two groups want a response right away. But that's somewhat arbitrary. Yeah.
What would be the positive opposite of the limited time and pressure for you?
If I understand the question correctly, I think the positive opposite is by slowing down, doing better research, asking more questions of experts, ensures better process and better outcomes for everyone in the long term in maintaining public trust.
You sort of answered my question already. My next question, which is, if you have the permissions to slow down and do better research, how would you approach this challenge?
I think what I would like to do in that context is two things. One, I think I would like to gather a working group that includes representatives from my publications team, a representative from legal, maybe a handful of representatives from our key ministries, the ministries who publish the most in the Gazette. And facilitate some conversation over weeks or months to collect expert opinions, and to share that amongst each other, so that key stakeholders can hear multiple perspectives from other people, so that I'm not just sort of the central bottleneck. And to collect those multiple perspective of expert opinions and develop a proper framework and policy for the long run, as opposed to just bowing to pressure right now to make a quick decision. And then the second thing I would do is to actually to address the pressure of a quick decision, communicate to all those people that that is my plan and that's the process we're going to use moving forward. And to live with, if individuals are uncomfortable or unsatisfied at that timeline and that process, to give myself permission that that's okay. Because good process and public trust matters more than what someone I've never met in another ministry dislikes my decision. And to just sit with that discomfort.
How do you feel now saying all this out loud?
It's helpful. It feels a little bit lighter, because I live in such a highly operational environment. Finding time to just slow down and think through issues is rare. And so it's helpful to just carve out some space and time to think carefully and deeply about complex issues.
Exactly. And as we talked about, urgency destroy is creates. Do you feel complete to wrap up?
Yes. Yeah.
Thank you so much, John, for your trust.
You're very welcome.
All right. So, what did you observe in the coaching demo? Feel free to unmute yourself or type it in the chat.
It's Nicole here. Beautifully done. And I really heard that connection for the client and connecting what they wanted with their own personal values, which was really powerful.
Yeah, personal values. And while we visit the limiting assumptions, we were able to explore some of the personal values for sure. Alexis likes the flow of the questions. And as I was coaching through, I noticed that I was past time and I remind myself, ease creates, urgency destroy. So I want to make sure I'm there for John and let him say it all. John, how did that feel?
It felt fine. It definitely felt very compressed. That was a very short amount of time, but I understand and appreciate that this was for demo purposes, and in an ideal world I would have loved more time to just unpack some of that complexity.
That could help.
Yeah, but it felt fine.
Awesome, thank you. And I see Tyen here. She says, digging into the heart of the issue and moving away from the assumptions around time and pressure. Amazing. Very, very astute observation, everyone. So, page 4 of the handout has instructions for the, this is the thinking sessions. at a glance, it's at page 3 of your handout. And this would be really helpful during your coaching practice. And we're going to move on to coaching practice. What I'd like you to do is to apply the components of thinking environment, choose 1 or 2 you'd like to focus on, and look at the detailed instructions at page 4 of the handout, and try to use part 3 and part 4 of the thinking sessions to check the limiting assumptions, ask what's the positive opposite of the assumptions, and then use the incisive question formula if you knew ... and then attach the goal. So as you practice that, try to do that. Terry is going to send you all out to a breakout group in the next minute. You all have 8 minutes to coach each, and then 2 minutes at the end to discuss. And we will come back for group debrief. Is there any questions before Terry sends you out?
So it's 10 minutes total, right? Or 20 minutes? 20 minutes.
16. Wait,
16 minutes.
18,
Okay.
18. Sorry, 18.
18 minutes. Okay.
Yeah. So while we are waiting for Terry to send us out to a breakout group, just think about a situation, a goal attached with a limiting assumptions. You have shared some of the limiting beliefs in the Mentimeter, so that could be something you could use.
Okay. I think we're ready to go. Are you ready?
Was there enough time to for the coaching, Alexis?
It was enough time for me to coach my partner, but not for both, for sure. And to my partner, the last question I just asked you, that will have to be your takeaway reflection question.
Nicely done, Alexis. Nice.
And you know, it's interesting because we managed to do like very finite, and we managed to basically finish up coaching each other, which was actually, I was kind of surprised. So just to finish up with Marcella, my question or my answer that I was getting out feels better. We are very succinct with our questions
Thank
and
you.
our
I will
coaching.
take that as a learning. I will give it more time for practice. All right.
I think the challenge is when we're coaches coaching coaches, I just want to go so much deeper. And I was trying to stay true to the model and couldn't. So I was following it roughly though. Sorry, I'm jumping into your debrief here.
It's okay. It's okay. Yeah, we'll get on going. So welcome everyone back to the main rooms. And I hope you had a really nice coaching practice. And that's debriefed. So what worked well? Feel free to type or unmute your mic and share.
I'll just speak up. My coach or my coaching partner was very coachable, and that made it really easy for me. And I do like the model. I was trying to stay true to the model, but then I found myself injecting other coaching questions just to dig in a little bit deeper.
Mm-hmm. And I also felt that too. So I combined like what I learned from coaching world and some of the model. Yeah. Thank you, Alexis. Who else like to share more?
Jennifer and I, we did manage to get through. It was great. We really enjoy, I'll speak for myself. I really enjoyed it because it is that reframing, as Jennifer had mentioned, reframing the questions just helps, I think, with clarity. And that's such a great tool. So, yeah.
Amazing. One more tool under your belt. Thank you so much, Kim. Does anyone want to add more to what worked well? Okay. I'm going to go to what was tricky?
Time.
If if Naomi can be more concise and summarize this whole book in less time, we have more time to talk. Maybe I'll just fasten, accelerate my tone and my presentation style.
That said, now I don't have to read the book though. So there you've saved me time.
Maybe you'll buy the book. What else was tricky?
I actually found the when you're asking what the positive assumption is,
Mhm.
that's tricky for me because sometimes it can be very clear, sometimes it might not be. So as the coachee, if I'm being asked, well, what's the positive assumption? I don't know how to answer that sometimes. And as the coach, how far do I have to keep, what do I have to say to kind of get there? It's definitely something more I want to work on because I really love this concept, but I'm not sure I fully understand or grasp it yet.
Mm. I think there's a fine line you could guide the client, because the whole idea is let a client define their own positive assumptions. Because if you come with your own wording, it might not work as well for the client, and there might be pushback and resistance. But Terry, do you think it is okay to maybe guide the clients, like, would your positive assumption be this, be that, and let the client pick to help them think and get through?
You're asking me?
Yeah.
I don't know if I would approach it quite that way. I would sometimes sitting in the place of not knowing is okay. And to
Mhm.
say, you've asked about the positive assumption, and you could explore that. Sometimes if you explore the negative and then work toward the positive, sometimes that works.
Mhm.
In terms of what's the thing that's really getting in the way, what's the barrier, and then once they've explored all of that, it's like, okay, we've got all these barriers here. What is possible? What skills or strengths are you going to be bringing forward that may support overcoming some of these obstacles?
Mhm.
Or these assumptions that you've got. And I don't know, for me, sometimes that works because if I can get them all out of my brain, all of a sudden my brain's empty of all the negative stuff, and then I have room for that positive thinking. I don't know if that's not grounded in neuroscience at all, but just to let you know that that's how it works for me personally, and I've noticed that with my coaching
Yeah.
practice.
And this is what we talk about, expressing the feelings. Just say it all, and then there's room for clear thinking. All right. So in the last coaching practice, you have had a chance to apply components of a thinking environment in coaching. And then you check clients' limiting assumptions in coaching using part 3 of the thinking sessions. And you design an incisive question to deconstruct the limiting assumption in coaching using part 4 of the thinking sessions. So I hope we achieved that for you. And here's our reflection portions. Oops, I give it away. What are you taking away? What are you going to do with this new information? How are you going to apply your new learnings? Apply it, Marcia. Practice it, Alexis. Thank you. What's something new from time to think you're taking away? Explore limits and assumptions with clients. Another tool to use during coaching sessions. Amazing. Thank you very much. So we've covered the 10 components of the thinking environment and how the thinking process is built upon the thinking environment. Oh, and Jennifer, switching from negative to positive, where your focus goes, where your energy flows. Amazing. It rhymes too, Jennifer. Great. Thank
Love
you.
it.
All right. So we got to practice the thinking environments. You have the handout thinking sessions. So hopefully this would be something that will be handy for your future coaching sessions. And these are my resources. And I would love to get some feedback from you as learners. Oops, not this one. I'm going to share screen on Mentimeter now. And yeah, it would be lovely to get some feedback on how I could improve your learning experience. Okay, here. Do we need to drop the Menti link again?
If you kept we could, but if you kept your Microsoft Edge or whatever search engine, it should keep it up, or it did for me anyway.
I closed my window.
Of course you would.
Oh, hold on. I'll scroll up and find the code. Don't worry about it, Terry. I can scroll up in the chat. And
I
get
think
it.
she just put it in the chat, I think, Alexis.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Okay, so opportunity to practice the tool, handout that supplement the learning, great content, great information. Thank you. Okay.
The Mentimeter's only allowing me to just enter one in there. Otherwise, I would have entered a couple more.
Yeah, you're welcome to type in the chat too if there's more.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. And then I'm going to move on to even better if. More time to practice. 2 hours instead of 90 minutes. Okay, if you want to stay that long with me, sure.
Time is a valuable resource.
Yeah.
Mm.
Okay. It's 12:01 now. I'm going to hand it back to Terry
Okay,
to
most
close
excellent.
today's learning lab.
Excellent. Thank you so much, everyone, for devoting this time to your learning and development as a coach. We so appreciate your attendance here. And as I mentioned at the beginning of the session, this will be recorded and saved on the Teams channel for you to review at your leisure. The handout is yours to keep forever. And thank you, Naomi, for assembling that for us so that we have something to refer to and remind us of this learning. And thank you, Naomi, for being so dedicated to the ongoing learning and development for yourself as a network coach and also for the network as a whole. We genuinely appreciate it. Enjoy the rest of your day. Enjoy your Friday. Catch whatever sunshine you get and can get your hands on.
Thank you, everyone. If you have further questions about time to think, just feel free to reach out to me at naomi.chia@gov.bc.ca. And thank you to the lovely coaches that helped give me this opportunity to present. Thank you. And Terry's support. Alrighty. Have a good lunch. Bye.
Enjoy.
Have a
Everyone.
great weekend,
everyone, for
everybody.
your
Yes, enjoy.
participation and your great
Get some
weekend
sunshine.
too.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you.